January 4th meeting of the Monona City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Kerr,
Here.
Alder Thomas. Alder Thomas.
Here.
Oh, okay. Alder Groupie.
Here.
Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Goforth.
Present.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the December 7th meeting?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any corrections or additions?
I noticed one need for a correction.
Okay.
On page 3 of the minutes under reports, it says landmarks will present to this Monona Grove School Board. We will present Nichols School. It should say both Nichols School and Winnequa School.
Okay, you got that, Joan?
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We have one additional item on the agenda under appearances, and then we'll go to Sally, who would like to make an appearance. I have a proclamation for Martin Luther King Day. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929. Pardon? In Atlanta, Georgia, and became the chief organizer of the civil rights movement by leading peaceful, nonviolent protests throughout the American South. And whereas in 1963, during the March on Washington, 250,000 people gathered outside the Lincoln Memorial to hear Dr. King's I Have a Dream address. And whereas due in large part to Dr. King's efforts, the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits racial discrimination and segregation in employment, education, and public facilities, was adopted in 1964. Dr. King received the Nobel Peace Prize later that year. Whereas Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on April 4th, 1968, and whereas on November 2nd, 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed legislation making the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a legal public holiday to be observed on the third Monday of every January. And whereas President Bill Clinton signed the King Holiday and Service Act on August 23rd, 1994, which designated the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday as a day of community service, interracial cooperation, and youth anti-violence initiatives. And now, therefore, I, Mary Kay O'Connor, Mayor of Monona, Wisconsin, in collaboration with the Monona City Council, do hereby acknowledge Martin Luther King Jr. Day on January 18th, 2021, and encourage the residents of the city of Monona during the COVID-19 pandemic to participate in the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service by attending a virtual event or observance on this day. Signed in the city of Monona, Dane County, Wisconsin, this 4th day of January, 2021. Mary Kay O'Connor, Mayor. Okay, the next item we have is a request to make a public appearance by Sally Buffett. Sally, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor and members of the council. 2020 has been quite a year, and through it all, I've been very grateful for my employment with the city of Monona. And this public appearance is in the spirit of it's one thing to be grateful, and it's something else altogether to express gratitude. Unprecedented times such as a global pandemic is a recipe for anxiety about what will happen to our family, our community, our workplace. And through it all, the city of Monona has kept its staff and citizens well-informed and thoughtfully supported. I feel fortunate to have such amazing support at the city level to keep staff safe and that our jobs have been secure. I appreciate the thought and precious time that's gone into making these important decisions and many more decisions. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to do any individual shout outs because I know I'd be forgetting someone. Family leave. I was pleased City Council adopted a paid family leave care policy that allows employees to take 2 weeks paid leave for a serious medical situation in their family. I appreciate that staff are able to deal with the stress of a serious situation without having to take unpaid time off or deplete their leave balances. No one ever wants to take advantage of this type of policy, yet it's very comforting to know it's available. COVID-19. During the early onset of COVID-19, I was grateful that the city closed down all public facilities and encouraged staff to work from home. As things continued, I felt safe returning to work, given the precautions staff take to wear a mask and to maintain social distancing while working together. Initially, City Council approved paying employees for 3 weeks, with similar motions extending pay to staff through June 2nd, regardless of whether or not they were able to work due to implications from the coronavirus. This action was a welcomed reassurance that our paychecks would continue in the midst of so many other unknowns. Black Lives Matter. Library staff responded to the national outrage following George Floyd's murder and the local unrest following Monona Police's interaction with Keontae Furge by drafting a Black Lives Matter social media post. In addition, library staff proposed a staff read of Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad, which director Claringbull embraced as a professional development opportunity. Reading the book, along with the self-reflection and journaling, has been eye-opening and has helped me identify the impact of my white privilege. I appreciate the city taking a serious look at its own policies with a racial bias lens. Mark and I participated in the city's community listening session on racial issues facilitated by the Nehemiah Project. It was a time to listen, reflect, and learn how Monona can become a safer place for people of all races and backgrounds. MLK Day holiday. I applaud City Council for making Martin Luther King Jr. Day an official holiday. Taking this action is one step more along the continuum of commitment that the city is taking to move our community towards a more inclusive and inviting place to recognize the importance of Black lives. Raise. Thank you for the 2021 1% raise. That increase speaks to the value council puts on city employees during this time when there's so many other financial unknowns and challenges and tight budgets. Flu shots. Fire Chief McMullen made a lasting first impression when he arranged for a healthcare professional to be on site to administer flu shots to employees and their family members. Mark and I were having a really hard time scheduling an appointment, so to be able to get that flu shot at the fire station was so convenient and appreciated. Library HVAC. The new rooftop air handling units that has been installed at the library have been a long time coming, and yet the timing could not be better. The new units improve the air quality in the children's area and our office spaces with groovy new ionization air filtration technology. The HVAC improvements bring the library closer to its goal to be a safer place to work and healthier public environment. Not open, yet not closed. The library building has been closed to the public for going on 9 months. The library has been busy behind its closed doors and continues to be a vital lifeline to our beloved community of library lovers. I'm proud of Monona Library and the thousands of items that continue to circulate via curbside pickup, and the extent and breadth of virtual services provided for families and individuals across the HVAN keeps our community connected and engaged. So thank you again for the impactful decisions that council makes and for the time and thought that goes into making these and so many more other important decisions on behalf of the city staff and Monona citizens.
Well, thank you so much, Sally. It's really nice to hear some positive comments. We really appreciate it. And I think I can speak for all the council members in asking one question about that HVAC unit. Have you noticed if it's warmer in the community media room?
We keep it, I'm kind of keep it cool, but no, I think it's perfect.
It helps along with everything else. So, does anyone else have anything to say? Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We will move on. There is no public hearing. There is no consent agenda. Moving on to council action items. We have one item under unfinished business. Consideration of resolution 20-12-2454, approving a certified survey map, CSM, for lots 2 and 4 of CSM 10267 at 1717 West Broadway Avenue. And this is put forth by the Plan Commission. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Plowman, are you going to address this?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Good evening, everybody. This CSM, the proposal, it's the second read. I'll just give a quick overview, and an update of where it is. This came through, the origin of this is really for a division of one of the lots to potentially facilitate a future sale of that parcel. It's the easternmost parcel, basically a reallocation of one lot to the other. This went through Public Works Committee as well as the Plan Commission. There was a recommendation in the Plan Commission that there'd be the conditions. One of the conditions of approval was that the consulting engineers review be included and incorporated into the updated CSM. Those 42 conditions or 42 edits have been made. You'll see the revised CSM in your packet. And so that has satisfied that condition. A lot of them were just punch list items, but they have been addressed. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions that the council may have.
Questions, anyone? Doesn't look like we have any. Given that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you. We look forward to seeing the project continuing down there. Next item, we'll move to new business. First item, consideration of resolution 21-1-2458, authorizing staff to execute professional service contracts for National Register nominations put forth by the Landmarks Commission. Doug.
Thank you. So this is basically a continuation of the National Register nomination process that has intermittently been coming back to City Council. This is to proceed. The Landmarks Commission has interviewed interested consultants. The decision was actually made to nominate 2 consultants, or to recommend that we proceed with 2 consultants based upon their expertise, as well as the property types that they would be working with. So the 3 properties that are looking to proceed, 2 residential properties, as well as the former Kohl's grocery store, now the Habitat Restore. So the information in the packet includes background information on both consultants, their levels of expertise. The commission is definitely still considering other uses for the CLG grant. There would still be leftover funding, but at this time it was decided that it was time to proceed to try and get these 3. There is a deadline on the funding. I've checked in with both consultants. They still think that deadline is more than reasonable. But at this point, the commission is excited to see these 3 moving forward and hopefully taken onto the National Register. Thanks.
Questions, anyone? Alder.
How many people did you interview, or how many firms did you interview for this?
There were 4 that registered, that had registered previously as being interested, 4 or 5, I think. And we interviewed each of them. And so ultimately, this was the decision. They were all more than qualified, but this was the preferred route.
And then for that funding, do we anticipate that potentially the Historical Society would extend the funding out past the end deadline, or, considering the COVID issues?
The deadline has already been slightly extended further than what was in the supplied documentation. I think it's really on a case by case. There's already expectation. The funding effectively is for the nomination to be submitted. There are already delays present with the National Park Service for the formal decision. So I think it would be on a case by case, but I'm in pretty constant contact with the state on that. And there are already a few different things the commission are considering as potential additional opportunities to use some of that funding. So I think it would just be case by case and can certainly ask that to be extended out.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
The next and final item, discussion regarding committee meeting recording put forth by Alders Goforth and Moore. Alder Goforth, do you want to take the lead?
Sure. Yeah, I think I had talked with Brian about this because thinking about these virtual meetings and how it's really presented an opportunity for people to be more engaged and participating, and then feeling like if we can get more of our committee meetings on our YouTube channel, I think that provides a really nice opportunity for those who have young children or who are at home making dinner while the meetings are happening. And so I just wanted to kick off a discussion to see if that might be possible. We discussed it at our community media committee, and the committee seemed in favor of that. Just having the opportunity to have a little more engagement.
And I think from what I understand, it's a relatively simple process, just basically pushing a button, right, to record a meeting, and then
That is
take care
what
of
Will said. Yeah, Will said the meetings were being recorded. Oh, sorry.
Brian, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just to provide some technical aspects. So right now we only record the Plan Commission, the City Council, and Personnel and Finance Committee. Those ones are broadcast up on YouTube. For us to, in the current Zoom world that we're in, through the Zoom technology platform, we could record the meetings to the cloud and then upload them from the cloud to the YouTube, the next day after the meeting's concluded. It would be a little bit more of a challenge to stream it directly to YouTube because we won't have Will or one of the community media staff at every single committee meeting. So it's likely that we would just have to have the staff liaison recorded to the cloud, and then Will and his staff would have to grab that meeting the next day and then upload it to YouTube, our YouTube channel that way.
Alder Moore, did you have a question? And then
Question, I
Alder
just
Thomas.
actually just had a comment, since I'm on board, is also having offered this discussion, and I would just add to what Christy and Brian just said, that because this is a scenario where right now with Zoom meetings, we would just be pressing a button to hit record, and then Will's time and energy would be minimal to get it onto YouTube. Our community media's time would be minimal. It would mean if when we go back to, assuming that at some time, may not be this year, but we certainly hope that at some time we would go back to in-person meetings. And when we do that, it's unlikely that we would be able to continue because we would not have the budget to be able to have community media staff, even interns in the community, in either the conference room at City Hall or at the municipal room in the library. So it's possible, it's quite possible that it would be temporary, a long temporary, given the way vaccinations are going. And so I have to admit, when it first came up, I was hesitant. Not, as you all know, I'm a big fan of communication. It's not because I wouldn't want more communication rather than less, but just that, would the residents feel like something was being taken away once we offer it? But ultimately, I think more is always better, and we can by the time that rolls around, who knows, maybe there'll be new or easier technology where we could still be recording and throwing it up on YouTube without needing staff in some way or we figure out some other way to manage it.
Alder Thomas.
Alder Moore answered my question. I was wondering where we go. I think we'll be doing live sooner rather than later, but and where we go from there. But Alder Moore answered that question. So,
Okay, Alder Goforth and then Alder Groupie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to Nancy's comment is the trend is these hybrid meetings. So not wanting this opportunity to end once we do open back up. And so I did, when I reached out to Brian to propose this, he hadn't heard of any kind of conversations in municipal government. And so I did reach out to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities to see if they had any resources or any research yet on this and how cities would do that. They did say they liked the topic and they're planning to do a webinar because they think it'll probably be a common conversation. So that'll be something we can look forward to seeing and answering our questions.
Alder Groupie.
This may have been discussed sort of in the initial proposal, but I'm just wondering about specific forms or other means of consent from committee members and or those who might make a guest appearance on the Zoom meetings and what that might look like, or, you know, I think that probably would be a necessary step to take. And so I just wanted to raise that issue here tonight.
Brian.
I think that's a good question that we should think through as we're considering this proposal. So maybe one pathway forward, at least for tonight, is to have the chairs of the various committees reach out to your committee members just to kind of get their temperature on the topic. You're not, you know, necessarily asking them for a yes or no, because I don't know necessarily that they're ultimately the ones that are making the decision. Probably it's a policy from the city council, but just to at least get their perspective on that. And, you know, once we have that information, we can kind of reconvene and see if it doesn't make sense for one particular committee to be recorded because there's sensitive information that's discussed. I'm thinking alcohol licensing, for example, talks about some things that people might not necessarily want to have recorded. Other committees where you're just having more policy discussions, those would make sense to record and put up on the site. I think that's maybe where the discussion might go.
Alder Kerr and then Alder Wood.
Certainly I'm for more transparency and making it more accessible for residents to be able to engage in government. However, I have concerns with us being able to do this now, and then once we go live again, not being able to sustain it. We have heard from the community that they have concerns about our transparency as it is. And if we go back to not recording meetings, they may wonder why we're not recording meetings. What are we hiding? And so I have major concerns about us not being able to sustain this. I also have concerns with some of my committee members that they would not feel comfortable and it may actually stifle conversation within the committee, knowing that it will be recorded and available to the entire community. You know, when things are boiled down in minutes, it's a little bit different than an active discussion. Whereas if it's live recorded, everything's there. And so I have strong concerns about that.
Alder Wood.
Yeah, just to pick up on the point that Brian had made about that some committees in particular license and review, we do, I mean, they're obviously, the meetings are public now, but we do get individuals who come in and we need to ask them, you know, what are some fairly personal questions, perhaps, you know, around alcohol use or abuse. And so I would be concerned about putting that out there, you know, recorded for anybody to access going forward. So, but, you know, overall, I think it's a great idea. I guess I'm hopeful that we'd be able to figure out a way to continue as a hybrid rather than just, you know, stop doing it altogether. And, you know, who knows how long this will be, probably into the summer would be my, who knows? I mean, so that's all.
Anyone else? Okay, I just had a couple comments. I think this is a good time to try this and see what kind of response we get. It'd be interesting to see how many people over a period of a few months make use of the fact that all these videos are out there. And I know we do keep count of everyone that's viewed. That's tracked for us. So it would be a good experiment. In terms of after we go to live meetings, I completely understand that you can have a hybrid meeting and some people can be there on Zoom and some people there in person, and you could even film. We've talked about possibly getting some kind of a camera to set up at in the conference room at City Hall where a lot of the meetings are held, although that would not be streaming like we are from the community media room. So you could record each of those two things separately, but I think we'd have to have Will look into how you then transfer that into a YouTube production that people can watch the next day. I'm not sure if you're recording some people on Zoom and some people separately with a camera. That's two different mediums. And I don't know, Will, if you want to just see if you can find out something about how that might potentially be melded together for broadcast later. I mean, but that isn't a decision we need to make right now. I think it'd be a good idea to experiment and see how it goes, just recording the Zoom meetings based on the input you get from the committees and whatever. Alder Thomas and then Alder Moore.
Just a question. Can somebody take these tapes and take snippets out of them, out of context? And
I suppose.
someplace else. I mean, that is the only concern that I have. And I guess it's, I have friends who are very nervous about putting anything on there. And when you make a statement, if it's taken out of context and bits and pieces of it are repeated and it can be attributed to you, could it be used inappropriately against someone? And how do we guard against that? Because the idea, here I go again, the idea itself is wonderful, but the devil is in the details, and what does this do to people? And does it make people uncomfortable about the potential of that?
And it's not just people, committee members, it's people appearing also. But of course we have that at council meetings and plan commission right now. So Alder Moore.
Yeah, I would just say, as long as we're talking about the conference room at City Hall and the municipal room at the library, that I would, as we're investigating this, I would ask that we also add conference table at City Hall, because if we're really talking about all city committees and not just adding 2 or 3 more, but really trying to tape all city committees. I can tell you that the facilities committee more often than not meets at the conference table outside of Brian's office, because there's meetings going on elsewhere. As we all know, we frequently have overlapping meetings, which is another thing to consider.
Yeah.
There's frequently more than one meeting in a night, and so just in terms of recording and coverage by community media and the recording materials we would need in order to cover multiple meetings on the same night. Just again, logistically, I think there's a few things to be worked out.
Alder Coor.
I also would like us to be mindful of making sure that we are maintaining accessibility for all of our residents. If we're shifting to a much more video-based platform, even after the pandemic is over, that may alienate some of our residents who are less web savvy or don't have the means to have access through internet. So I think that that's something we should be mindful of, at least when we move forward with any type of new policy.
Anyone else? Okay, well, Brian, do you have some direction to?
Yeah, I think so. We have some things we can research in terms of the technology side of things and what capabilities exist in terms of some of the hybrid options that we talked about in the different camera systems. So we can take a look at that. But I would also ask that the committee chairs kind of informally reach out to your committee members just to start getting a check of temperatures on that, because there will be some policy questions we'll have to answer in terms of which committees we record and that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. Anyone else have anything further? Okay, thank you. We will be bringing this back at some point in the future. That is the end of any of our action items or in new business. Moving on to reports of committees, commissions, boards, etc. Alder, go forth.
Okay. Yes. So as Doug talked about, we're moving ahead with the National Register process. Since the school district declined participation declined their participation, we will have some funds remaining, and so the commission has decided to try and pursue having the Panther Mound registered. So Doug is working on communicating with that property owner and looking at that possibility right now. And that's really all I have. Our community media committee was canceled for December.
Okay. Alder Thomas.
No report.
Alder Wood.
Just MPO meets this Wednesday at 6:30. One of the things we're going to be talking about is reaching out to all the municipalities within the boundaries of the MPO about cost sharing towards the MPO budget, which right now City of Madison pays the vast majority of the cost, and there are 4 cities and 1 village that contribute, sort of voluntarily contribute. We are one of them and have been for a long time. Sun Prairie, Fitchburg, who else? Sun Prairie, Fitchburg, yeah. And us out of the cities have contributed. So we're hoping to get Middleton and Stoughton and Verona, as well as some of the villages like Cottage Grove, to also contribute. We don't really have any leverage other than to say it's not fair that some communities are paying and some aren't. So,
Okay.
So.
Interesting. Thank you. Alder Coor.
No public works on Wednesday.
Alder Moore.
There will be a Plan Commission meeting next Monday at 7 p.m. And as I'm sure some residents are aware, we have a proposal coming in front of the Plan Commission hearing for a new use for the Shopko site, of which I know there's community interest. And as I've encouraged on social media, residents who are interested in this proposal are encouraged to write us or come to the meeting. The appearance section is first up on any agenda. Residents are always welcome to come to our meetings any time over any issue, including this next Monday at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Groupie.
Next Tuesday, Parks Board is meeting. Next Wednesday, pending cancellation. Transit Committee is meeting. And then next Thursday, pending cancellation, Sustainability is meeting. So it's a full week of meetings for Alder Groupie. The other thing I just want to mention is we're getting close to the time where nomination forms are going to be turned in for the spring election. And from what I understand, there are multiple candidates for more candidates than seats for several positions. So I just really want to encourage everyone to start doing their homework about candidates, get to know them, try to figure out what issues are important to you and sort of which candidates align with those, and just make sure you stay engaged and involved and participate in the election this April.
Thank you. Chief McMullen, did you have anything you'd like to report?
Well, Happy New Year to everybody, first of all. It's been a great 3 months. I just wanted to report, it came up this morning at the staff meeting. Vaccinations have started. I put forth 16 names, which are my tier 1A folks. So all my full-time staff, the LTEs, Chief Eckloff, myself, and a couple of our volunteers that are heavy EMS providers. They were targeting folks that actually operate in the back of the ambulance on a regular basis. First up, I'm happy to report that 8 of my 9 full-timers decided to get vaccinated. 1 did not, but all my LTEs and all the other volunteers have chosen to be vaccinated, myself included. So 15 of the 16 is not bad. And tier 1B, which is the remainder of the fire department, police officers, other public-facing personnel. We're going to work through some of that over the next week or so. Should be firing up not this week, but next week. I should get some rules coming forth, hopefully tomorrow, on who qualifies as a 1B staff member that we can put forth. We're going to work as hard as we can to get as many of our folks on that list as possible. Not just police and fire, but other city staff that are public-facing positions. So it's been a good couple weeks, and I can also say there have been no reactions to any of the vaccinations. So
That's good to know. Are you going to the Alliance Center for those?
yes.
Okay. Do you have Chief McMullen has been a huge help with our food drive as well, benefiting St. Stephen's. He's been doing a lot of the collecting of the donations, which I think we've got 9 different sites. Do you have a report on the weight of donations?
We're over 1,000 pounds.
Great.
And we're still collecting. So I think we'll be collecting for another couple weeks. I know the library has been fantastic. I've emptied their barrel, I think, 3 times, and City Hall's been emptied twice. Had some help from some of my volunteers as well. Assistant Chief Miller went around for a couple days and collected food. It's been fantastic. What a giving city. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. And I know people have reached out to me about how they can donate monetarily as well. So, and there's information about that on the city website still. I think we're talking about going through about the 17th, I think, for now.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we'll see how, maybe talk the week before about it, if it's slowing down or whatever. Alder Moore?
Yeah, I just, Jerry, if you could, this morning I could have sworn I saw a post about a rather large explosion that was on Buckeye, and the report from another that I saw also was that it was potentially a gas line, and I'm just wondering, and I didn't see anything in the news after that. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. I can tell you it did not happen within the city limits. What I can do is check and see. I can hop on the dispatch and see what was dispatched. Do you even have a relative time or date that this happened?
I believe it was this morning, and I knew it wasn't within our city limits, but since Madison's right across the street, and they said Buckeye.
I did not see anything significant on the CAD this morning.
But I checked just in case there were any updates from that, since it seemed like it was a concern.
City Clerk Andrews, do you have anything?
Hi. Well, let's see. On the 1st, it was my 13th year here as the clerk. It's about 20 years in Monona, but 13 years as clerk. So I'm happy to.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Happy to still be here, and y'all haven't kicked me out. And we are gearing up for the elections. We do have 6 candidates for Alder, for the 3 Alder positions. 1 has yet to turn in his nomination papers, but the deadline's tomorrow at 5. 2 candidates for mayor. So it's going to be a full April spring election, full ballot. There probably will be a primary in February. We're hoping not, but probably will be. All that I've heard that's on that ballot is the State Department of Public Instruction. So it's a one position. When we have one item on the ballot, it's always a really low turnout. I will be bringing forward at the next council meeting a 1 read action on your part, if you will, for consolidating the polling places to the community center. not only for low turnout numbers, but also for COVID safety, because it's still quite an issue, COVID, and we still need to be careful. So it's much better to have one place rather than two to try to keep track of our PPE and our behaviors. So otherwise, that's it. Just because starting out the year, it's a busy time for us, and we are, on the ground running. So thank you.
Thank you. Leah, I see you down there in the corner on my screen. Did you have anything you'd like to report?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And Brian.
Sure. Just one item for the council. Working with the police chief search consultant to wrap up the position announcement. We should have that out probably in the next day or so. So when that's finalized, I'll make sure that the council gets a copy of it. We'll have the window for applications open for 45 days to allow plenty of time for people to get that in. We also will be sending out a community stakeholder survey in the next couple of days just to get a wide array of community feedback on what they would like to see in the next police chief, so that the Police Fire Commission can have the benefit of that information as they're kind of going through their process. That's one piece of a number of other public engagement components that we envision as part of that, part of this search process that we're going to be going through. So that's going to be coming in the next couple of days, maybe early next week at the latest as well. So I'll keep you in the loop on that as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. I just had two things. First of all, some of you might have seen on Facebook, I participated in an event over at WPS late last week where they've installed giant face masks on their entryway sign, both mentioning their appreciation for first responders, and they're also to serve as a reminder to everyone to mask up. So I thought it's a pretty cool idea, and given how this virus keeps going, I think it's a good idea to have everyone remember that they need to keep wearing a mask. The only other thing is our next meeting due to the Martin Luther King Day will be meeting on Tuesday the 19th. So just keep that in mind. And of course, Monday will be a city holiday, so offices will be closed at City Hall. Okay, is there anything else? If not, there are no appointments. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi. Happy 2021, everybody. We did it. We made it.
Yeah, let's not go